right, well, welcome back, and we are now ready for our next installment in this video series. Thanks so much for making it back to this video. Hope you've watched the first one. If you haven't watched the first one, please go back and watch that first before you watch this video, because this video is going to build upon the last one. This won't make a whole lot of sense to you if you haven't seen that. So I definitely want to make sure you get the most value out of this video. What you're looking at right now on your screen is a fill-in-the-blank letter of intent that I've created that makes it pretty simple for people to fill in the blanks, right? You just kind of go through all the parts that are red and you fill them in based off of what the seller is asking for. So remember that the majority of people that we're going to come in, across with are going to be sellers that are going to want cash for their property. They don't want to do a terms offer. Terms meaning, you know, doing the rent to own or a seller financing where they're getting all their money over time. They prefer to get all their money today. And if you're a savvy pro, you've been doing this for a while, you already know that. But if you're a brand new person, or maybe you're not a brand new person, but maybe you're brand new to creative seller financing, just know that the majority of sellers don't want to do this. They want to do all cash today, whether conventional or however they want you to structure it. So what I'm showing you is really very niche, and it's done that way on purpose because I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, because then I'll be competing and struggling like everybody else does. Not everybody. There are definitely people who are doing their business well and succeeding, but let's face it, the majority of people who get into real estate, whether as a realtor or as a wholesaler, struggle because they don't learn marketing, which we're going to talk heavily about in the next video, on how to get tons and tons of leads really, really fast. I mean, I'll show it to you live. You'll see how fast they come in. But they don't normally master that. So they might master how to fill out some contracts and that kind of stuff, but they don't master the marketing end of it. And if you're looking at this for the first time, a letter of intent from the perspective of a private real estate investor is really just my way of crystallizing for the seller my offer to them. Now, how do we get to this point where I would be filling this out in the first place? Well, usually what will happen is, as an internet marketer also, I want to capture seller leads. I want to capture buyer leads. I want to build my seller list. I want to build my buyer list. And I also run an affiliate program for what I do and what I teach. So I want to capture affiliate leads too, email addresses, right? So I use squeeze pages like the one you're seeing on your screen right now. Now, granted, this may look different to you if you were to go to tenantbuyerlist.com at the time that you're watching this video. It may look different to you because I'm always changing up the designs and everything because I want to make them better. I want to do what's called split testing, where I'm testing different designs for better results. So a seller would come here and they would kind of read this and go, okay, does this sound like me? Is this something I want to check out? And they'd scroll down maybe and check out and go, oh, okay, there's 3 secrets that I want to learn, etc. Maybe continue scrolling down and they would see that there's some testimonials. And it's all very laser focused too, if you'll notice. There's not a whole lot for them to be able to do other than register their spot now. That's it. It's all they can do, which is very different than what a usual website looks like, right? Normally up at the top there's a bazillion different buttons that they can push and get confused with, which is why they leave, right? So a lot of people have been frustrated over the years by spending 5-10 grand on a website and realize they're not going to get any leads from it. So anyway, with that said, I digress, but your seller comes here and they're going to fill out this form here, and so they can pick, I'm going to do yesterday's broadcast, and they'd enter their name in here. Let's say Donald Trump comes here and he puts in his email address, and maybe he puts, you know, when I say enter the representative that referred you, because some of our affiliates actually send people to this site, and so he might put the affiliate that referred him, and then he's going to click here, and when he submits, this video is going to pop up in a second, and it starts talking with me explaining how our program works, and then allows people to fill out a form where both Donald and Hillary can fill it out, and I use the information I get from here right here. All right, so we'll talk in the next video on how you get a ton of leads to actually do that, And so you definitely don't want to miss that video, because that's probably the most powerful video in the series, because it shows you how to become a master internet marketer and really get a ton of leads for dirt cheap. This isn't, you know, $1 or $2 leads or $5 clicks on LinkedIn. This is dirt cheap. But I'll get into that in a minute. All right, so we get to that point where we've got the information from the seller. The seller says, look, I want $100,000 for my house. All right, so they want $100,000 for their house. And of course, we got to get their name in there. You know, get the name of him and his wife, and then they want $100,000 for their house, right? So what I'm going to do right off the bat is I usually charge anywhere from 3 to 5%. I'm going to go 5%, and the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to add that 5% on top and make it $105,000, because out of that $5,000, I'm going to split a part of that with the seller, so that the seller is getting good and valuable consideration for the option to sell their home. If you have no idea what I just said, don't worry about that. I get into that stuff later, but that essentially makes it legal, right? There's got to be some valuable consideration, which means there's got to be some money exchanged in exchange for a contract with some pricing and terms that I'm going to be selling. All right, so I'm going to charge $105,000, even though the seller just wanted $100,000. I'm going to charge $105,000. I'm going to give the seller, in this particular example, remember, there's always different ways that you can do this. This is not the only way. This is just one way, okay? But I'm going to give them $2,500. Oops, the wrong one. Go 100 here. And then we're going to put that right here. So what we're doing is we're saying they wanted $100,000 originally. I'm going to give them $105,000. I'm going to give them more. So if you're a wholesaler that's used to doing like 30% off or 50% off, well, how do you like them apples? Right now you're doing $5,000 over what they were asking for. And the reason I do this is because I make offers where I'm giving their full asking price. And I literally give them their full asking price. When it's all said and done, I'm actually structuring it. Because I'm doing things on terms, meaning I'm doing this kind of a sale over time, I have that leeway, which you don't have if you're doing a traditional wholesale real estate deal, right? You've got to get it below value. You've got to put your little margin into it. And then you've got to calculate after repair value and all this other good stuff. And then hope that a cash buyer will want the deal. Well, in this case, I don't have to do any of that. I just add my fee, which is called an assignment fee, and I add the money I'm going to give to the seller, which both of these equal $5,000, which is where I get the $105,000. After these two fees are paid to both the seller and me, the seller still walks away with their full asking price. All right, so their net price is going to be, or their net amount is going to be whatever the difference is. I am terrible at math, so I'm going to say that's, what is that, 97.5? Oops, 90, I think that is 97. Is that right? Anyway, if I'm wrong on that, don't worry about it. That's why I use a calculator. But that's essentially what I would fill out there. And then I would say that the purchase price, if I'm doing a regular flip, I might just go, let's say it was a 1-year term, I might just do the first year being 1 year. If I'm doing a what's called a sandwich lease, I might do it like this, right? So that's one way to do it. You may not do that. You might just keep it all to where it's all 105, and you might just try to make your money kind of in the middle. You can do it all kinds of different ways, right? So let's say we did it like this, and let's say it was 3 years, but we did want some money from that, so we're going to go here, and then we're going to go here. So if the buyer closes in year 3, then we make the difference on that, right? So I'll show you in a minute how we're going to make money in the middle and how we make money at the end. Let's say the rental amount, to keep things as simple as possible, is $1,000 a month. and we're going to make an offer of, let's say, 900 to the seller. So this is our monthly offer to the seller, and then we're going to do buyer credits of, let's say, 200. And let's see, our tenant buyer responsible for the five. Okay, so this is going to be where the tenant buyer is responsible for the first $5,000 in repair. This is what makes it a perfect offer, is because you're giving the seller their full asking price. You're also having the buyer responsible for the first $5,000 in any kind of repair. So the seller does not have to be a landlord. For folks that have gone to this site here, and they've got rental property, usually they really dislike, if not hate, the idea of being a landlord. So when they see this first, they connect automatically. It makes sense with them. All right, so we're doing 200 right here, and what I'm doing here in this little section here is I'm saying to the seller, I'm going to give you $900 a month. I am giving you your full asking price here, but I'm not going to give it to you here. I'm going to give you 900, and I'm going to resell it. Let me just add one part in. And we're going to say that is 1,100 a month, right? So that's what I'm going to collect, but I'm going to pay the seller 900, and I'm going to keep the difference, right? The seller's getting the 900. They wanted 1,000. I'm going to give them a little bit less, and I'm going to keep this every single month on a property that I do not own, but I do control. And we get into how to control property using a one-page form that is super harmless, that realtors and, well, I'm sorry, not realtors, because realtors usually don't understand it, but usually attorneys understand it and are cool with it. And it's one page, so it's awesome. It doesn't require, it's very non-threatening. All right, and so as we scroll down, then we get into, the fact that we're willing to take the property as is. So the seller's like, awesome, I don't have to do any more investment in the property, I don't have to put any more money into it. So they like that. And it says, we'll have our tenant buyers provide you with a letter of intent and rental application along with supporting documentations to include, but not limited to, income verification, background checks, etc. So we have this whole process where they do all this themselves, so I don't have to do it because I am ambitiously lazy and I like to do everything through very leveraged activity. And then we're going to go and let them know that we're going to draft these documents and then assign them to an end buyer. Assignment just means that I'm going to write this up with the seller myself, with my name on it and all that kind of good stuff, and then or a corporation or LLC, and then I'm going to assign that to an end buyer. So when I talk about end buyers, that's what I'm talking about, really. Let's pretty that up a little bit. Is these documents here. So it's a lease agreement, a purchase agreement, an option agreement, and an assignment of all option agreements. So this document essentially assigns all of these for a fee, and that's how I get paid. And I tell them up front, look, your real estate attorney can review it, not a problem. Happy to have them do that, and they appreciate that. And I also tell them that, hey, you're not going to have to pay 6% to realtors, right? The listing agent usually gets 3%, and the selling agent gets 3%, so it equals 6%. They can keep all of that. And all I have them do is just reply to it with an okay, right here. And if they like that, then I will send them the one-page agreement that I've got, and we get started. I've got a deal under contract using a promissory note, so valuable consideration has been extended. And I always have this in here as well because I am not a realtor. I used to be a licensed realtor, but no longer. So I do my disclaimer here that says I'm not a realtor, a broker, accountant, or attorney. We do not represent anyone but ourselves, acting solely as a principal in the transaction. Our intention is to assign the lease option pricing and terms described above to our end tenant buyers for a profit. And then if they give me the okay here with just a quick reply via email, guys, I'm good to go. I'm doing this all from my house. I never, in the last 8 years, do not go and see houses. I don't go see sellers. I don't go see buyers. I don't use any of my own cash. I don't use anybody else's cash other than the end buyer who's going to buy the house, right? That's where I get my money. That's where I get my valuable consideration. It's from them. That's how I do it. That's how you do a true no money down deal. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed making it for you. And I'm telling you, carve out the time, do whatever you've got to do to watch the next video. It's going to be awesome because that's where it's all going to come together. That's where you're going to start to see how to get tons of people to come to your site, whether it's yours or if you want to use mine or whatever. You're going to see how to get people to come here and build your list. Guys, your most valuable asset is your list. It is not anything else. It is your list. So if you're trying to build up this amazing tribe on Facebook or get lots of likes on LinkedIn posts or whatever, that's awesome. I do a lot of that myself, but I recognize that I could get shut down from those places at any time. If I have my own list of emails, subscribers that are subscribing to me like you, right? You're on my list right now, right? If I have that, nobody can take that away from me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about as far as anybody taking it away from you, you know, Facebook does some crazy stuff. Other sites do some crazy stuff sometimes. They change their terms of service and policies and they shut people down and people lose their businesses, their entire businesses because they lose their list. If you want to build a true virtual business, you've got to build your list. That's the way to do it because now you can communicate with that list and help and serve them while at the same time earning money for what you do. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I've, again, enjoyed making it for you, and I'll see you in the next video.